Well, the upcoming U.S. presidential election could be a make or break moment for cryptocurrencies, with drastically different scenarios depending on who wins. And the risk asset has faced a tough regulatory environment in recent months, with the implosion of FTX and scrutiny of other major companies putting the industry in the center of partisan debates. So, will crypto have a place in the American economy? CNA's Elizabeth New finds out, and she is at Singapore's Marina Bay Sands for crypto event Token 2049. Liz?
Yeah, thanks for that, Henry. And I have with me someone who has been closely watching both the Trump and the Harris campaigns so far. And that is Anthony Scaramucci. He is a founder and managing partner at Skybridge Capital, and he also briefly served as the White House Director of Communications under the Trump administration. So you had a front row seat to all that. I want to talk about Donald Trump first. So he debuted just this week this cryptocurrency business, World Liberty Financial. Why now? What do you read of his latest venture?
Well, as a crypto enthusiast and a Bitcoiner, I'm not in love with the project because I think it tarnishes the good part of what he was doing earlier in the year, where he was embracing Bitcoin, talking positively about getting good crypto regulation in the country. And I think he, in fairness to him, I think he moved some of the Democrats towards the middle. When Trump started to embrace crypto in May, you saw the ETF for Ethereum, as an example. It looked like it wasn't going to get done, and then the pressure was on the Democrats to get that passed. And so this sort of behavior, it's very sham-like. I think that people that look at this would even suggest that there's a little bit of a ruse going on with campaign finance. So this is a way to send money to the project. He owns a piece of the project. The project gets inflated. It could be a potential pump and dump disaster for individual investors. And then Mr. Trump and his family gets the profits associated with that. So I don't know. I don't like it at all. And I think it's bad for him. I think it's bad for the industry. But it's also a breach of norms. This would be the first time that a presidential candidate is launching a token or a business 6 or so weeks prior, 7 weeks prior to the election day. So, I just think it's bad for the country, and I hopefully it'll hurt him at the ballot box.
You had a front row seat, quite literally, to the presidential debate last week. I think you were invited by Kamala Harris. And shortly after the debate, we saw crypto prices fall. We didn't hear anything about crypto during that debate. But in the lead up to that presidential debate, there was talks that if Trump wins the election, Bitcoin could go up to some $90,000. But if Kamala Harris wins the election, it could fall to some $30,000. I think the sentiment here, shows quite favorably for Donald Trump. But talk to us what this means for crypto.
Well, first of all, I think that's misguided. I've read the same reports that you've read. I have been in 3 separate White House meetings now, alongside of people like Mark Cuban and Mike Novogratz and others from the industry. And I believe people like Senator Chuck Schumer, the senator from my state, but also the majority leader, who says that he wants pro-cryptocurrency legislation. He's probably not going to be able to get it done this year, but in the next congressional cycle. And so I think that that's a misnomer. I think the Republicans have done a good job, frankly, of moving the needle towards fair and propitious regulation. And I think the Democrats have been too far to over-regulation. I think that people like Senator Elizabeth Warren or SEC Commissioner Gary Gensler, in my opinion, I think they've hurt the industry unnecessarily. They're hurting good actors in the industry, actors that want to be compliant. They're sort of engaged in this thing we call in the United States regulation by enforcement. They won't tell us what the rules are, but then they start filing lawsuits against some of the good actors in the industry like Kraken or Coinbase. But if you fast forward into next year, if the vice president wins, and I predict that she will win, President Harris will have a middle-of-the-road cryptocurrency legislation, a piece of legislation that regulates the industry fairly. And I think you'll get a stable coin piece of legislation as well, because the political leaders in the United States are getting attuned to the notion that a stable coin represented in U.S. dollars is actually good for the U.S. dollar. And so I think these things will happen. It's taken longer than we would like it to, but I think some of that was related to the FTX debacle. Remember, Sam Bankman-Fried was close to Elizabeth Warren, and he was close to Gary Gensler. And so one of the things that the two of them did was they swung very hard against the industry to have that overshadow or eclipse how close they were to Sam and Sam's parents.
I picked up on the bit where you said that you think Kamala Harris will win. I'm curious why you think so.
Well, of course, I've endorsed her, so I'm not just talking my book. I'm a numbers person. Let's just go over the numbers. The Democrats have more registrants than the Republicans, and of course, the largest base of registration now are the independents, where they're in the 40s. Democrats in the low 30s, Republicans in the high 20s. But she's got three things going for her. Number one, she's had explosive registration numbers since she was announced as the nominee. Number two, she's raised over $500 million since the convention, $47 million last week after the debate. And she's coming into this with a lot more money the last 6-7 weeks of the campaign. And this is a get out the vote election in the United States. The participants in this election already know roughly who they're going to vote for. There's very few undecided voters. And this will be, each party will be working on bringing their base out to vote. She's way more organized than he is. As an example, in the state of Pennsylvania, she has 24 field offices. He has 12. She has 3 times the money. She's not going to make the mistakes that the Hillary Clinton campaign made in 2016 by not doing the work. She is going out there. She's meeting with people. She's going into the red parts, or the Republican parts of the Pennsylvania state. She's going up to Michigan and Wisconsin. You know, Secretary Clinton didn't go to Wisconsin after the convention. It really hurt her. She lost that state. And of course, had she won that state, she would have been president. So the vice president's doing the work. She bested Donald Trump in the debate. I predict he will debate her again because he's already slipping in the polls. General polls of likely voters, he's down 6. And so, yeah, I think she's going to win. And again, this is just a numbers thing. It's not, of course, I want her to win, but I have said to her team, you've got to be vigilant. You've got to stay working. You can't take that away from Donald Trump. He's a very hard worker, and he gets a lot of publicity, as we know.
Any surprises you think that could change who you expect to win?
Well, I mean, there's always October surprises, but, you know, listen, when a 78-year-old man is putting up on Twitter or Truth Social that he hates Taylor Swift, I mean, that's the sentence, I hate Taylor Swift. That in itself is still a little surprising to somebody like me. You know, the surprise could be the self-destruction of Donald Trump. I mean, it was his fall was interrupted by another unfortunate assassination attempt, and there's no room for political violence. Every normal person in our country will denounce political violence. We need to settle our differences at the ballot box. But President Trump is in self-destructive mode. Just follow him around. He's saying that the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating dogs. He's got people traveling around on the campaign with him that are tweeting out racial slurs against Indian Americans, and they're right there present with him in the campaign. So I predict that the American people will grow tired of this nonsense. And I would say this on behalf of the world and the U.S. economy. The world wants stability from America. They want less attention from American politicians and more productivity and more positive policies that improve not only U.S. prosperity, but peace around the world. And I think Mr. Trump is too disruptive. He's too unpredictable. And I think the American people have had enough.
And I have time for a quick one. What do you think it means for Asia? I mean, we're closely watching all of this.
I think what I would say to everybody that lives here in Asia, you want stability in the United States, and you want politicians that are predictable, that are going to offer you something that's very consistent with the 80-year post-World War II story that America represents. We are obviously a nation with our flaws, and we've made some foreign policy mistakes. But in general, we're trying to do the right thing, and we're trying to promote growth and prosperity. And, of course, this beautiful, amazing city and country is a country that we respect in the United States, and that's what we want for the people here. And I think she represents that way more than he does.
I really appreciate
He's too unpredictable. Okay, you don't trust me. If you're listening, you can vote in the U.S. You got to vote for Harris. Okay.
We're definitely going to be watching very closely. It's great to have you on. Thank you for talking to CNA. Anthony Scaramucci, their founder and managing partner at Skybridge Capital.